Buff Nation, what up? BWB, my bandwagon buffs, what up? It's your man's Harry Billion. Welcome to TLP Live. This is Waiting Wednesdays. And this is our first installment of the Waiting series. So, allow me to tell you what waiting means. Before I do that, I want to welcome everybody. I want to allow a little bit more people to come in here because when I explain what waiting means, then we can all get into the discussion. We can all have a conversation because waiting is something special that we're going to be doing on Wednesdays. So we're going to discuss it. But TLP Live is noon. So right now, I'm sorry that I am late, but it is 12:08 on the East Coast. That means it is 9:08 a.m. on the West Coast. So the idea of the show, every Monday through Friday at noon, we come on and we talk about Colorado football. And on Wednesdays are going to be a special show where we talk about the issues surrounding college football and the issues that may be plaguing some of the things that Coach Prime is trying to do. So issues in college general, we just talk about those issues. Some may be controversial, some may not be controversial, but we're going to be waiting. And I will explain what waiting means so that we can go ahead and get into the show. So a lot of you, I don't know if you've heard the Negro spiritual song, Wade in the Water. That Wade in the Water is a reference of the Bible scripture, John chapter 5. So John chapter 5, if you ever read, or when you have some time, you read John chapter 5, where in the Bible, there was a special pool there, and Jesus meets this invalid guy, meaning that he was paralyzed or he has some infirmities, some injuries that impeded his walking or his moving around. So he was an invalid man, and he was sit at the pool. He was sitting at the pool, and for 38 years he's had that issue. So the idea was that he will wade that the pool that he was standing at, or the pool that he was sitting at, it was a place where people will go, and at a certain time, the angels would come and they would trouble the waters, or they would stir up the water. And at the stirring up of the water, if you got into the pool, then your infirmities or the issues that you had with you, you would be cured or you would be healed. So that was the custom during that time. So you would jump in the water, you get healed, or the issues that you had would be answered. That was waiting in the water at that time. So this guy could not get into the pool because he had some issues getting into the pool. Everybody would jump in when they saw the water getting stirred up, but he couldn't do it because obviously he was injured. So that's waiting. So now the reference, the Negro spiritual song, Wade in the Water, also references the Israelites or the Hebrews, Jesus's people, moving from Africa, Egypt, going over into the promised land, which was Israel, which is currently now known as Israel. And they were wading the water. They had to get in the water for God to stir up the waters, meaning like Moses would part the sea and he would drown the chariots for them to be able to cross over into the promised land. So basically, if you want your issues to be answered, if you want your questions to be answered, you got to wade in the water. You got to jump in. You understand what I'm saying? You got to jump into that water. So that's what we're doing. We're jumping into the waters on Wednesdays. We're going to have to jump into the water. So you can't be afraid unless you are invalid, right? And invalid just means that you have infirmities or something that's causing you not to be able to get into that water. And if you are invalid, meaning maybe you don't understand the issues, Maybe you don't know the issues and you may not have answers or anything to add to the issues. I would suggest don't go away. Don't run away from it. Embrace it. Sit back, listen to the issues, listen to the people talking about the issues. You may learn something. And at that time, if you are able, maybe somebody will come along and help you to be able to jump into that water. Because right now you are invalid. But if you're not invalid, then I invite you to jump into the water, because you are able to jump into the water. Because without jumping into the water, without getting into the issues, it's a little bit hard to move the issues along, to have answers or to get answers to the issues that we all deal with on either a daily basis or just topics and stuff that just irks us, that we feel like needs some answers. So Waiting Wednesdays is just that. If you're mature enough, if you're ready to deal with certain issues, then I invite you on Waiting Wednesdays to come and let's deal with some of these issues. Let's talk about some of the issues that are plaguing our society, that are plaguing college football. And let's get in the water, because when God starts to trouble the waters, meaning that if you're willing to jump into that water when the water's being troubled, that's when you get answers. Hopefully I'm making sense to you. But if you're never willing to jump in, it's a little hard or impossible to get healed or to get the answers that you seek for the issues that you are having. So that is waiting. That's what waiting means. We got to jump in order for us to get healed. So that'll be Waiting Wednesdays on TLP Live. All right? And right there on your screen, guys, I'll put it right here in this corner right here now. Waiting Wednesdays, if you want to call into the show, email this email right here. Join TLP Live at gmail.com. Right here, join TLP Live at gmail.com. Hopefully, I didn't make that too small. I didn't want to make it too big or too small so that you couldn't see it. So I put it right there for you to be able to just easily see it and call into the show. Maybe a topic that we are discussing is going to break your interest. You're at work, so you can't call in. But on a day that you can't call in, on a Wednesday that you can't call in, you would call in and add your voice to the conversation. So it's time for us to wait. Let's go ahead and get in. Now, before we start waiting, guys, let's talk about the current happenings around Colorado real quick, and then we'll jump into today's waiting. So what is currently happening around Colorado and the Colorado Buffaloes? Current news, current happenings, what's happening, social events, social things that are happening, or what is the current state of the team? Colorado got a new wide receiver. Shador asked for this wide receiver, all right, and he pretty much got his wide receiver. So now Colorado's wide receivers room is real stacked, and I want to give you a quick glimpse of how stacked Colorado's wide receivers room is. So we deal with the current stuff, and then we move on. Just give me a second. Let me put this up on my screen. Good morning, Tim. Dallas is in the building. Pittsburgh is in the building. Oh, Purple Orca, you from Pittsburgh? That's what's up. Chanel Design and Creations, Dallas, baby. Okay, KMS is in the building. Prime got y'all taking it next level. You know what we do here on TLP Sports Club? DC Carson Music. What up, DC? Hope all is well. DC's a flight. He's a pilot. He does music. Retired early. DC been waiting in that water, I see. DC jumped in that water early. He was like, I ain't invalid. Yo, man, I love to see blessed people, man. I love when I see people who are blessed. God is doing something special in your life. So I'm grateful for what God is doing in your life, brother. Salute, salute, salute. I'm gonna cover my face real quick. I think I am. All right, let me cover my face. But let me show you Colorado's room real quick. This is Colorado's wide receivers room. That text is truth. What up, Harry? What issues do CP and Colorado have? I'm confused. Yeah, don't be confused. We'll get into it. If you stick around, you'll understand. Um, but yeah, but let's talk about Colorado's wide receivers room real quick. And this is something crazy right here. So it's like, yo, Colorado I mean, we are so stacked up in that wide receivers room, and for us to add a new addition to that wide receivers room is it's crazy, man. I mean, I'm like, I think people are like predicting if Shador can be protected, if Shador have a little bit of protection, he's gonna be putting up Michael Penix's numbers, Michael Penix style numbers, Bo Nix style numbers. I say he goes beyond that. I'm telling you, I already predicted that Colorado that if Shador could have had protection, I'm looking at 5,000. I'm looking at 5,000 yards plus 5,500 yards, if that, something like that. So yeah, I feel like if Shador has that protection, I don't know that he doesn't put up those type of numbers. That's how I see it, and I feel strongly about that. I want to know how you guys feel about that before we jump into this thing here. So let me know. Wide receiver room. I'm doing a quick update on this graphic so that we can get this thing off my face. Feel so real. Blessings. What up, man? Hope all is well. Well. So yeah, I feel like let's get this thing off my face real quick so that we can have a true discussion here. Here we go. Lord have mercy. We got Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn Jr., Omarion Miller, Tavares Dawson, Caleb Mathis, Jordan Arnevo, Asim Wasman, Assad Wasim, Jacob Page, Garvin Marsh, never heard that name, Kendor Stewart, Cam Michael, that's a commit, Terrell Timmons Jr. committed, Draylon Miller committed, Will Shepard committed, Cordell Russell committed, and then this is the new addition. This is LaJohntay Wester, who committed, I guess, Shador was like, yo, man, I need you in Boulder. And he obliged. He was like, yeah, man, I got you. So, good afternoon, Peter, investor. What's up, man? Hope all is well, Peter. So, this is our wide receivers room. This is what it's currently looking like. King P, what's your line about today? We learned about our receivers room being stacked right now. So we just added I'm gonna call him Levante, man. Like LaJohntay. These parents be getting real creative with these names. LaJohntay Wester, please hit that like button so that the video can get out to more people. Let's see. And that says, hey, fine boy. They get like me. Hey, fine Liberian boy, Liberian accent. Lord, what you do here? From Delaware. Of course you Liberian. All Liberians live in Delaware. Jeremiah G, what up with you? And they get want to be bluffing in front of me here. You gotta be careful. I'm a man now. Anyways, let me stop flirting. Anyways, so yeah, man, our receivers room is looking pretty nice, and I feel like Shador, with all of these weapons, is going to be a problem this coming year. So that is the current news. And then I kind of overheard that we may be losing another defensive guy, a coach. He may be. I heard it on one of the channels. I heard that he might be leaving to go to, I think, Miami or somewhere. So I mean, I don't really know if that's a big situation, to tell you the truth. Um, at this point, at this point, I'm like, whoever leaves, Coach Palm is just saying, "Hey, man, my situation is good, and you can go. I'm giving you my blessings. We're gonna be all right over here." So I think that's what it's all about. I think if anybody leaves now, it's not breaking news. It's more so like Coach Prime giving them the blessings because he's about to get busy. That's what it feels like, and will feel like for me. But like I said, welcome guys to Waiting Wednesdays. We are about to get in there. All right. Oh, Hawaii. Sorry. Scoop Brooklyn. Thank you. It was Hawaii. All right. So Jeremiah G, what up? Scoop Brooklyn, what up? What you think Harry B starting for? All right. So before I get into it, let me just answer. Buffs attack 21. I don't want to fool anybody. We're not talking too much football today. I don't want to, lure you in by mistake. We're going to be talking about waiting, some issues that are surrounding the team and Colorado football. So I don't want to lure anybody in falsely. So I'm wide open over here. My starting five, or my starting five. This is basketball. My starting lineup, obviously Travis. I think there's a petition now for us to get Travis. Now that we're getting all of these weapons, let's release Travis to the defense or let him choose a side. All right. I don't know that Coach Prime will allow that to happen. Just let the guy play the football that he wants to play. And if he's been doing well, then he's going to be all right. But I say, obviously, Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn Jr. I don't know this new guy, LaJohntay Wester, but he comes in with a lot of stats. He comes in, it's a solid wide receiver. So I like Caleb because I like the way that he runs his routes. He didn't get that many snaps this year, but I like the way that he runs his routes. And a couple of people have said they like the way that he runs routes, and I think I like that too. Omarion Miller was the breakout for the year. I definitely like him. Coach Prime and his staff were surprised because, like Coach Prime said, he didn't really practice that way. So that was one of the issues that I had. I said, well, you see, Coach, somebody can surprise you. So give him a chance. Like, that lady on the train on Coming to America. Come on, Coach, give him a chance. If he in practice this way, it's all right. Give him a chance. So I like Omarion Miller. You know what I'm saying? I like Dawson, Tavares Dawson. I like him. Was it Omarion Miller that had the breakout? Or was it Dawson? Now I'm confused. Daggone it. I heard that Kim is good as well. Kim Michael, he's good as well. But we're gonna have our obvious starters. But again, I think this is gonna open up practice a little bit more. And I like the options that Shador has. So I don't really like talking about the offense too much if it's not that O-line and it's not the defense. I want to talk more about the defense, and I want to talk about the O-lines. But I don't have an issue with Shador, the weapons that he has. I don't really have too many issues because I don't know that there's anybody in college football at all that we cannot compete with on any given Sunday, any given Saturday, any given Friday, any given 10 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, whether we are whether our judgments being impeded or whatever, we eating too much KFC chicken. I don't care. Fatten us up. We can compete with anybody as long as we can get that Shador protected. I think we can compete with anybody in college football, hands down. And I'm saying the Georgias and the Alabamas, we can compete with them. So that's how I feel. Like, I would debate anybody on that, on our offense. You protect Shador, it's about to be a problem. Seriously. All right. So, all right. So Omarion Miller was the breakout wide receiver. Okay, so it was Omarion Miller. All right, guys. That's enough football talk. You coming to wade in. Y'all ready to wade in? Can I get a yes? Let's wade. Y'all ready to wade? Y'all ready to wade in? It's about to get serious, people. We about to get serious. If you're ready to wade in, let's go. Hope people will be doing bad mouthing on their Twitter instead of earning their spot on the field. We'll get into all of that later tomorrow. Wester will be Shador's favorite wide receiver. That boy reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, I see you, Chris E. I see you. But it's time to wade. It's time for us to wade in our very first topic that we're going to wade in on. Oh, let me get the email ready. The very first topic that we're going to wade in on. Should black college football players, be allowed to use the N-word in the locker room? That is the very first question I want us to wade in on. So, obviously, we're going to use Wade, in double entendres and stuff like that. But I'm picking on the black players first, obviously. Should black players be allowed to use the N-word in the locker room or around the team? And there's a reason why I chose this very first topic to be that, because we are at a higher learning institution, and for our more astute constituents, people in our community, they've been fighting for us to get rid of this word in hip-hop for a very long time at no avail. And the conversation in the academic community, those who are more educated, they've been trying to fight this fight for a very long time, and they've been saying, let's stop using that word. Let's stop using this word in our music. So I would say, if we are at a higher learning institution, I would say, if this is the case, then wouldn't this be the place where we start to say, okay, let's start here? Is it smart to say this is the best place to set that example, where we do not allow black players to use the N-word around their white friends, or around in the locker room, or on their team? Because I heard a couple of them. Sometimes they were bleeped out. Sometimes it was so obvious. I can tell that that's what they were saying on the Well of Media videos and stuff like that. And it was like, it was just regular talk. There was no reprimanding or anything like that. It was just like, that's their regular vernacular. That's their regular tongue. So ain't nobody saying nothing. Ain't no harm, no foul. But should we be setting an example here? I don't know if this is a controversial thing, but I'm just asking. I'm not picking on the Colorado Buffaloes team. All right. I'm not picking on nobody specific. This is obviously our constituents, so that's why I'm bringing this up. Should it be allowed? Should we allow this to be a topic of conversation? Is it important enough? Would it even make a dent with society? Does society even care at all that it's an issue? Obviously, the society as a whole believe that we should get rid of this word. Hip-hop is like, yo, if we get rid of that word, what the heck will we say, right? Because it's obvious, like, the N-word is like, it's almost like, yo, it's a natural thing. It's just like off the tongue. Yo, what's up, man? Yo, son, what up, man? So it's like, it's almost like it's fun now. And the hip-hop community is like, yo, we took the power away from the racist, and you can't hold that on us anymore. And you can't say You can't use the ER if you put a GA to it, or you move the ER and you add the GA to it, then then we good. But we're not. Excuse me, guys. But we took our power away from the racists. Did we take that power away from racists? Let me go ahead and invite my panel on. Let me send the email, guys, and so we can go ahead and get this conversation started. Because I want to know what you guys think out there. Is it important enough? Does it even matter when it comes to using the N-word in college football locker rooms? Does it even measure up on does it even come up on the Richter scale at all? Or am I just infusing something where it's not? I could be. I'm not perfect. But if I see something, say something. You ever been to New York in our subway? They say if you see something, say something. So I want to know, how do people feel out there? How do y'all feel about black players using the N-word in college locker rooms? And it's obvious, because obviously this is a learning institution. So can we start here? Can we start the conversation here? What do you guys say in there? In the what are y'all saying in the chat? Let me give me a second. Let me copy this link. Let me invite my people. Willie, I'm inviting you today, man, brother. I feel so bad not inviting you the other day. I saw your request, and I just couldn't get to it right away. But I got you on today, OG. You coming on today, so please excuse me. I want you guys to know that this show is a shorter show now. So these topics sometimes are heavy, and when we get to going and people get to talking, it makes it real difficult for me to, have too many voices. So I might have to start limiting the amount of voices. When I first started, we didn't have that many people coming on. Scoop Brooklyn says, everyone says it, Harry B. All right, so everyone says it. Is that enough? Is that an excuse? Because there is historic thing to this word, this N-word. And because everyone says it, is that enough for us to say, all right, so everybody does it, so let's just do it? And I'm gonna poke Coach Prime a little bit here. Please forgive me for poking Coach Prime. I'm not saying he should be the gatekeeper of the N-word, but if you are the quintessential disciplinarian, the guy that sets the principles for behavior and how you should carry yourself in public and how you should uphold yourself, say yes ma'am, yes sir, yes this, yes that. If you are that guy, if that's what you are based in, if that is your principle, that is who you are, that is your fiber, the things that you make up of, that guy, then is it plausible? I like that word. I love that word. Is it plausible to say he should set the example on us not using that word? Or is it contradictory to his linkage to hip hop? Am I on the surface? Am I going too far here? Let me know. All right, Willie, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you, man.
Wade in the water.
Wade in the water, children. Wade.
How you doing, Harry, man?
Brother, I'm fine, man. Thank you for coming on today. So let me get you started with just answering this question. Is it, should we hold Coach Prime? I know he's not the gatekeeper of the N-word, because it's a thing that everybody says. Should we hold him accountable a little bit for using the students, at least at his school, using the N-word?
A coach has control over his locker room, and only of the kids when they're in his presence. He could, if he wants to, if he desires to, if it's a problem on his team, which is very difficult to say because the majority of the players that he has are African Americans, and we, for some reason, we've had this issue of going back and using that word. So he has control over it. or what he, how much of it he will allow, and then you have to consider our kids and what they're coming out of, um, coming out of this type of environment where the word is used regularly. You know, growing up, when I was growing up, it was a word that was used regularly, and with us, it wasn't. It wasn't. You know, it was just one of those. Just one of those things that we used and we did. So, but getting to Coach Prime, um, he is the captain of that ship, and he has control over his players. And I think, if it's detrimental, if it's going to be an issue within the locker room, okay, he can control it. If it's not, then I'm not there. I don't know. I don't know. But like, it's definitely a pretty good topic because even in our society, man, in our society, we kind of like shoot, wait, shut up, phone. Even in our society, we're still struggling with the issue, within our hip hop community, and they see it one way, and our older generation, we, those of us that know the history behind it, we see it another way. So I think it's gonna be one of those things that it won't go away. Not gonna go away. But in your environment, like Coach Prime's, environment, he has control over it. And then you have to look at how many kids are gonna get, gonna buy into it. If it's that is, and it's man, it's just one of those things where they just, I think they do it, unconsciously. They do it unconsciously. If when I'm around when I'm around my friends, let's say my older friends, sometimes you're tempted to do that because that's what we've been doing all our lives. But um, very good subject. Um, but he has control. I'm
All
going
right.
to
So
say of the locker room.
let me bring Phil on so we can. Good afternoon, Phil. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you joining the show, sir.
No problem. How's it going?
All is well. All is well.
Good.
So let's just take off. Should players stop using the N word in the locker room? Is that a thing? Is it big enough? Does it matter enough in the college in the learning environment? Does it matter enough for us to even be talking about it? Is it a thing? Should it stop being used, especially the black players?
So here's the thing, man. I think it really just depends on where you fall on this. I still use the word. I can't act like I'm above reproach. But if a coach decides that they don't want that in their locker room, they have every right to do that because we've already seen issues before where white coaches would talk to other black players, basically saying, "Why would you want to say that word?" and things of that nature. So when you're in mixed company, you want to be careful with that because some people can get a little bit too comfortable, and if they don't have the right complexion to be able to quote unquote say the word, and then they decide they want to but they hear it from you all the time, that could be an issue. I think if Dion were to have his entire locker room to stop saying the N word, that would be the greatest coaching feat in college football history, hands down. I think it's too ingrained in our culture, in our society, that it's just second nature. Um, but to answer the question, should it be taken out the locker room? I hate to say it, but I really don't know, man. I don't think it's really that big of an issue. I think it's a team by
Yeah,
team scenario.
yeah,
Well, the reason why I'm making it an issue is because this is where we are learning, right? This is school. So if this is school, then doesn't it make sense that how can this be school and it's not where we set the example of where we shouldn't use the N word? Like somebody should say, well, you know what? This is school. So this is where it would make sense for us to start, where we should say, hey, man, nah, man, you can't use that word. That's why I'm saying, like, I know it's not a big deal as far as like the scope of things, but just because this is school, I'm feeling like if I'm hearing it in the college ranks, then should it we should deal with it at the school level. If anywhere to deal with it, this would be where okay, we're learning, we're higher learning, and we're in college, you know.
So if that's the case, then let's get the DJs out the locker room playing music with the N word in it. If you don't want your players saying it, then we
Yeah.
need to get all semblances of that word out of the locker room. So that means your game day DJ, he needs to play the clean version of songs, or he can play some oldies, or he can just play some instrumentals. Would you be okay with that?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Because if we
Okay.
say we can't use the N-word, you know what I'm saying? Then obviously, then yes, then that would be that would go across the board. If we choose a piece of music that we're gonna play on the day, then yeah, I don't want that music to have the N-word in it. Then yes, play the clean version. We're not saying don't play hip hop. We're saying don't say the N-word. And if we can't say it, then that means that the music and everything else that we have can't say it. Because would we wear a shirt that says the N-word in it? We wouldn't, right?
No, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't.
Right. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't wear the shirt. So why would you say it, Willie? In the
I,
music. Why would you
I
allow the music to even have it in it?
well, like I'll get back to this. It's been part of our culture. Now we're all are now very culturally sensitive. I'm gonna put it that way.
Let's not
Where
say our culture. That's hip hop culture, not our culture.
oh,
Hip hop culture. Not everybody is
okay,
part of hip hop
okay.
culture.
Well, hip hop got the culture, got the word out of the culture though, right? Am I correct? It came from
No, hip
us,
hop hip hop
from
made
black
that
folk.
part of the culture by using it.
But
Now the
where did it
black
get?
culture, not every black person is part of the hip hop community. We try our best to make hip hop a encompassing thing for all of black culture, but not every black person
Right,
participates in hip hop culture. But
right.
the N word comes out of the hip hop culture. Black people don't just be going around and be saying the N word.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with you. But let's look at the origin of the word. When you look at the origin of the word, um, it when I came up, that was just part of black folks' culture. I'm from New Orleans.
What?
We
The N
yeah,
word was black people's culture?
it was yeah. Listen, it's part of
Never.
how we talk to each other. But
Mm-mm.
no, it's how we talk to
Push
each other.
back, Willie. Push back. Never.
Okay, well, hold on. Let me finish. Let me get it out a little bit here.
Come on, OG. You usually like
So,
you only. Come on,
so,
OG. Let's go.
so, so with if you're going to tell the kids to stop,
Uh-huh.
there's a history behind that word, not the AR as they saw, but the NIGG or what ER. There's a history behind that. Now, if I'm going to talk to a young man, I'm going to say, oh, well, you shouldn't use the word da 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 da. And I will explain to him the history behind it because I know the history behind it. I remember the water fountains that said certain things. Okay. And I would explain that to him. Now, after I explained it to them and they still want to do it, it's out of my hand. But at least if I'm gonna tell you to do something, Harry, I'm going to give you a little. I should give you some education behind it. So those of us, the reason that they say don't use the word is because of the. Oh man, this is definitely a Black History class. You got to understand the history of it. Because in our words, if you don't understand your history, you have a tendency to repeat it. And then we have in our community, it's real funny. In our community, there's a double standard. And then, most the other people, the other folks are saying, well, if why you can use the word and I can't, you
All
see?
right,
And
Willie. Okay, Willie. Let me
got
push
it?
back on. Let me push back on you just a little bit.
Okay.
Let me because I gotta clear this up just so we understand the black community is not monolithic. I just want people to understand that at no point in history did the word Nigga become a part of black culture. It was only used in hip hop music, and hip hop embraced it so much. Even the older folk, the older generation were always pushing it back. Like you can go all the way back to the Bill Cosby, the Fresh Prince, those shows that those shows that were like black staple shows. They were always pushing back on that. So it's never been a part of black culture. It's been a part of hip hop culture. So I just want to clear that up for the room so we understand. But let me bring in DC Carson. DC, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling in on this topic, man. I appreciate you.
Help me out, DC.
What up, my Nigerian?
Hey man, you're gonna call me Nigerian, we're gonna have a problem. But
no, it's naysayer. Remember, it's naysayer. Let a naysayer know.
You call me Nigerian, we're gonna have a problem, homie. I'm Liberian from
Liberia.
What's up, Liberia? I'm gonna get right to it. Is that I get it that there's because we have subcultures within black culture, and I absolutely understand that some people use it. What I am going to tell you is that unequivocally, if you're using this in corporate America, you're gonna get fired. You got to watch, because you have to have a discrimination-free workplace. I will sit here and tell you right now, I don't agree with the music being played, the DJ in the locker room, because a guy from Kansas might not want to hear the same thing that a guy from Compton might want to hear. And so I think that we got to be mindful is that word, that I understand that some people, it means something to different people, but we also have to be respectful is that I don't like it. I almost had to kick somebody out the military because they used it. And they went off. I mean, they was firing back and forth. And it's like, if I'm not going to say it to my soldiers who look like me, then how am I going to say it with somebody else of a different shade says it? Now I'm hypocritical. So the end of the day is, if everybody can't say the word, which we know if you say it, somebody going to check you on that one. You shouldn't say it. Probably needs to be avoided. If you're sitting there playing a space game and whatever, I'm finna run it blank, then so be it. But in most settings, it is an inappropriate word to use.
Hey, DC, can you explain just a little bit of why that word is so inappropriate today? Just a little bit.
Well, I will tell you this. I went to this diversity thing one night. I'm gonna jump on it today. And they were using the word color, and everybody black in the room was like ticked off about it. And then this older black man stood up. He said, "Y'all not seeing it the way that we saw it. We saw it something as different colors with us. So it was something beautiful, though we didn't like what it was used. Like colors on this water fountain and stuff like that. We considered it a beautiful word." And that shook the whole room because you're talking about a different generation. I think that, and Willie, kind of going back to that, is you're saying why you shouldn't use it? Say again, Willie, why you shouldn't use it?
No, I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that's what he was asking.
Yeah.
But because it's considered regardless of how we want to use it, it's still considered a derogatory slur of somebody black. And that's that's why you shouldn't use it. I understand where it's coming from and where you were coming from, Willie, about how we got to the word. Being from Tuskegee, you clearly knew our history left and right of how you got to these certain things. But again, it is still considered a slur. Put it like this: if I spray painted it on somebody's garage, what do you think is going to happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have to think about that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So Harry, so what you and I understand, and I know, in the hip hop culture, they changed they understood what we were saying, but they wanted to make it more prevalent. They wanted to make it more prevalent to their generation, so the instead of the IR, they understood what we were saying. Then they say AR, meaning a term of endearment. Well, that's still hard for a lot of older black folks to buy into, you know, because you put an AR on the word is still sounds like the old word, kind of sort of.
Right. So my idea is not necessarily any variation of the word. It's just that the fact that we are in a learning institution, so
Yeah.
should we say something? Is it cool to say something? Because I don't know that people are so used to the word that it's like, okay, if you say something, it's almost like you're picking on the black students, or you're trying to be nitpicking or something like that. But if we're here, if this is where we are at a place of learning, then how is it that can we even have be part of the conversation? If we are allowing it in our locker room, then should we even be a part of the conversation when it comes up in public outside of the learning institutions? Then
What
can we even be part of that conversation?
I mean, I would say Colorado University of Colorado is like 98% white.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna let that sit for a second, and that's a panel can discuss that. But I just think I think that I understand that we fought our battles of code switching and all those different things. But I just think there's something. If I'm a professional, and I'm not saying if you're using it, you're not a professional. But what I'm saying is if I'm walking in a professional environment, then there are certain things that you can and cannot do. It doesn't matter what your color is. There's certain things you cannot do. Now, yes, there seems to be a more tendency to view us negatively or more critically as African Americans. Absolutely, I'll never get around that. My environment of going into well, man, I used to joke and say, man, I was the most of the time as a black pilot, I was the only chocolate chip in the cookie everywhere I went. It was one chocolate chip, and that was me, and that was it. But at the end of the day, there were some things I definitely could not do. But I would sit back and say is that you got to consider your environments. Is that you have to understand this. If how we deal with each other teaches other people how to deal with us.
Yeah.
Hey Harry, and I want to add this. I think it's funny how you got using the N word in the locker room over my name. I just want to put that out there. But
I had no
nah,
place to
but
go with the graphic.
it's
Yeah,
all
Lord.
good, man. It's all good. But no, but I think in all seriousness though, it really comes down to how you want to run your operation. And it's a sticky situation, especially when you have white coaches, because let's be honest, there's only about I don't even think there are double digit black head coaches in college football. So I don't know how a white coach would broach the subject. I mean, they could probably say, "Hey, this is going to be our code of conduct for the locker room. We don't want to hear these words. Dion don't want to see the guys wearing white socks. You know what I'm saying? So little things like that, he can mandate what he wants in the locker room. But I just don't know how this is going to be something that you can get out of it, regardless if it's something that's noble or not. I think it's just too ingrained in who these kids are. Because I look at my nieces and nephews. They're between 13 and 22, and they have white friends. They've been coming up, and it ain't no thing for their white friends to say the N word sometimes. And so I think we're kind of getting to that point where the younger generation don't. It doesn't mean that much to them, so they're a little bit more willy nilly with letting other people use it. But then if you got somebody that is firm in it and like, no, I don't want to hear that word. I don't want nobody to use that word, especially I don't want somebody white to use that word, then you could have some issues. So I really don't know. I don't have a right answer for how we fix it if this is something that you feel that needs to be fixed.
So
I'll
then,
give you a perspective. I'll give a perspective is that
hold on,
doing
hold
some
on, hold on, hold
diversity.
on, DC. Hold on, DC.
But
I want to drive this home. I want to know, why is it not important to us? What's going on with our generation? Why this is not important for us? because there was a couple of generations ago that fought for our rights, that got into the streets to fight for our rights, and we were fighters. We've been fighting for years, and so I want to know. I know people are, some people are going crazy in the chat. Like now they're trying to control what we say. I'm not trying to control what anybody says. I'm saying, should it be important to us, to our generation? I'm just picking on the blacks for the first episode. I'm picking on the black players. This is the first episode of Waiting Wednesdays, and yes, I am saying, should the black players be allowed to say the N-word in the locker room? I'm specifically picking on them for the first episode, but trust me, there's gonna be there's gonna be topics that we're talking about that talks about everybody. So we're gonna be wading in that water to try to get some answers. But yeah, so DC, tell me why it's not important to us. Why is it so not? How is it that we're so far removed from the sting of that word that plagued our people?
I think because we normalize it, that we became numb to what it means, and a lot of people don't really realize how we got there. I mean, consider this: I've had a young person come up and ask me, when I tell them I went to high school in Montgomery, they've come up and asked me, "Does Montgomery have buses?" And I'm like, "Are you absolutely kidding me that you don't know if Montgomery had a bus?" I want to tell you just a side note is that during some diversity training, there were other senior officers who was white in there, as well as enlisted, and all of them said they cringe when they hear that word. They cringe. And again, they said that, well, I remember one guy, and a mentor of mine was a two-star general. His wife, he said, "I don't want to hear it. I find that word appalling, and I don't want to hear it. I understand some things," he said, "but it is absolutely unacceptable in my formation at all." Again, this is white two-star general. But I think that we use it. I think that we have gotten used to it, and unfortunately, it's just hard to get rid of it because everybody has a reason why they use it. I mean, just like when women call each other nowadays the B word. I refuse to call a woman the beach or the H or whatever it is, but yet it's so commonplace. But what I would say this kid, Harry, as far as a believer, I think we got to be careful of certain words because you're speaking curses over folks.
Hmm.
So do you think this is something where somebody like a Rick George or Coach Prime, they need to take the lead and try to help us, because we had to relax some of the standards to let some of these players in. And if I may go all the way there, I would say to let a lot of the black players in. So if you are at a university where a lot of the black players cannot get in because of the academic standards, then what are we doing with the N-word? Should Rick George or somebody step in to say we need to get rid of this N-word in the locker room because it's important? Like we need to understand that the importance of this word and get rid of it in the locker room. I mean, cussing and playing music and your hip hop, all of that's just regular stuff. But the N word has a very strong, very very strong meaning to black culture, and I'm glad that they bleep it out on the Well of Media videos, but we can all tell that they're saying that. So should they go one step? If they're gonna bleep it on the videos, should they go one step further to just get rid of it in the locker room?
I'll go back to my original statement. If you want change to take place, there's got to be a lot of education. Okay, you want me to stop using the word? Give me one good reason why I stopped using the word. Well, education. When you know better, when you learn better, you do better, and you know better. The reason, I just don't use the word. I'm old enough now to where, man, it's not that important to me. Then with the understanding that I have, but when you come to the institution of learning, The only way that Rick George would hear that, just say he would hear that, he sees two black players walking along and they're talking, and they don't see Rick George there, and they say, "Oh, da da da." So, I think the university may have some standards on there, like DC was saying earlier about what policies that are in place. I think they have policies in place, and I think Coach Prime adhered to those policies. So I think they do to a certain extent, because if listen, um, they're just, I mean, they're like what, 2%. I mean, there's 2% African American there, or minorities or whatever. So they've got to have those things in place, and they prepared for this. Trust me, they prepared for this.
So the question, let me throw this question in there. Is this a matter of freedom of speech? Because how far does freedom of speech go when it comes to derogatory terms? Can we call women bees in the locker room?
No.
Can we
The
can we
music
say
does.
okay, I'll put it this way. Can we say anything against the Jewish community?
No.
And
Harry,
against
listen,
the Jewish,
listen.
No.
I'm
I'm
No,
gonna
going
be
all the
Harry.
serious
way
with
there.
you. I'm
Can
gonna be
we say
serious with you.
I'm going
Just
all the way there? If it's
I'm gonna be
if it's
quiet.
if it's freedom of speech, I know my
No.
screen is about to go black and white. My screen is, I'm about to get canceled.
It's blanking on my end over here.
Can we use anything anti-Semitic for in the vein of freedom of speech in that locker room, or is it only when it comes to black issues that freedom of speech is always used?
Man, listen.
Nobody wants
I
this
see.
one.
No. So Purple Orca said there's a difference between hate speech and using a word. So I think I won't even say there's a fine line between certain things, but like there is a difference between using the word as a term of endearment between people and calling somebody that word to be
Yeah.
negative. And if you think about it, even a black person call another black person the N word and it be something negative. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just always about racial stuff, but uh my thing is if you want to get rid of the word out of the locker room, I just don't know how you can facilitate that. I mean, like I said, Dion, he says no white socks, they don't wear white socks. So I'm sure if he wanted them to not say it, and that was something he wanted to lean on and make happen, he could, but I just don't see how you can effectively make that happen and actually carry it out.
Yeah.
Well,
So let me
and
address certain things that are coming up in the comments. Harry B has used that word on his show. Now he's being hypocritical by saying this doesn't fit his narrative. I don't know why some people are just ignorant. Like Yo Creole, I believe. Don't be ignorant. Okay. This is a show. I said let's protect Shador, and then I said out of sheer enjoyment, and then I said the NIGGA, and I screamed it. But that's not a word that I use on my show often. I don't put that in my speech. I don't constantly use that word as something where I feel like, oh, I need that word because I don't have other words to be able to articulate what I'm trying to say. So I'm not being hypocritical by just saying should or bringing up the topic should at a university, right? At a university. You are at a higher learning university. Should this be a place where in public we're hearing the players in the locker room? Because now, whether you like it or not, well-loved media is one of the biggest media platforms that black people get college football information from. So should we be holding people accountable now? Because now this is such a big platform. Is this a platform where we do some educating as well, as opposed to just entertainment? Should we be able to say, I guarantee you, if Coach Prime wanted to address that issue, it'll be such a big issue. It will almost eradicate the word, or it would bring it to the forefront to say, let's deal with this word. You know what I'm saying? Because Coach Prime breaks the internet anytime he brings something up. So it's like if Coach Prime said on Well Love Media, all right, young men, let's deal with this N-word because it holds such a significant historic value in our culture. Let's deal with this. I feel like it'll bring a lot of attention to us discussing getting rid of the word in public discourse at all. But I'm not being hypocritical by having a discussion. So I don't know. I don't understand what the ignorance is coming from. But anyway, that's what I'm saying. That we come to a place of education, but yet we're still being introduced to the word, the N-word. And should we or should we not discuss it? Somebody said in the comment in the chat, this is our culture. We push culture. Millennials are always going to use the N-word. Does that make it okay?
No,
I don't think it necessarily makes it
I-
okay, but
I-
I understand why, because there's a evolution of words, you know what I'm saying, just throughout history, you know what I'm saying? So okay, look at it like this. If you were to go to Europe and you want to smoke a cigarette, you could use the word that they use over there, but if you use that word over here, that's a derogatory word towards homosexuals, right? If we're gonna have an honest conversation. So words have different meanings and they evolve throughout the years. And I think we're at a stage in the evolution of the N word to where it doesn't carry the same type of weight. But again, if Dion decided he wanted to mandate not using that word in his locker room, then have at it. Again, I'm not a fan of it. I don't like using it in mixed company, because I don't want them to think that I'm okay with them using it. But again, if you want to get rid of it, I just don't know how you can facilitate that happen. So we can have the conversation on should we or should we not. But if you get to the point where we say we should, okay, so then how do you do that? Is going to be the biggest issue.
Yeah, I agree.
and can anybody answer the freedom of speech situation? Is that a part of freedom of speech? I don't know that we
So
tackled that.
so when people talk about freedom of speech and they give pushback, like they always go to the well, you can't yell fire in a in a movie theater, right? You know what I'm saying? So like there are limitations to what and how you can say things. But again, in this situation, it's his locker room. He can say, I don't want you to wear white socks. I don't want you to do this. I want you to be here 15 minutes early, even though the meeting starts at 1 o'clock. I want you here at 12:45. If he can quote unquote mandate certain things in the locker room, then he has the ability to at the very least present that to his team if he felt it was important enough to do so.
But because it's such a cultural thing, I mean, how quickly will it? It's not going to go over right away, but how quickly will it go over? Because you got to remember, the brothers that are there, they came up using the word from a little tyke, from being a little bit of something. So it's gonna be what it's gonna for those guys. For these guys, it's gonna be like a cultural shock, you know. And so,
I mean, we don't care who it offends. Who cares? And
no,
as far as going over quickly, change doesn't come quick.
it
Change takes
won't.
time, but somebody has to
Right?
initiate change.
Yeah.
What Martin Luther King and what people did in history, we're just seeing some of the changes that were initiated years ago. So this is not a thing where we're saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be an overnight thing." I'm talking about somebody initiating, somebody, especially like Coach Prime, will probably be effective on bringing this to the congregation.
I agree. I agree with you on that. Yes, sir.
Well, then the
If
pushback
it,
people are gonna give is then you need to tell your son to stop using it in his songs. You need to
Well,
stop
yeah,
having a
that would challenge him.
DJ.
We got to challenge him. Like if we challenge him to be better, if we're saying let's be better, then yeah, let's challenge him too to be better. Why is it not good to challenge him to be better?
But then, Harry, I mean, I agree with you. You still got to go back to the education part of this stuff.
That's
I'm
part of it.
big on. I'm big on the
You're not going
education.
back to it. You're
Yeah,
educating.
yeah.
That's the whole entire thing. You're not going
Exactly.
back to education.
Yeah. Well, you got. When I say going back to it, I mean going back to the word education. We've got to educate them. You can't just tell a young kid today, or a young guy today, stop doing it, because he'll ask you why. Why should I do it? So, but if you can give them a valid reason and let them be the judge. Well, this is why I don't use it. Okay. Yeah, but you grew up in a different time. Right? So they're gonna give you pushback. But at least The dialogue has been started. The education has begun. You're giving them something to think about.
So Willie, let me answer KMS real quick.
Sir.
So here we are. Prime got to save the world. So here we are. Let's dig into this a little bit. We're holding Prime at a high level, and we talk about the different things that he does in the community. We talk about the fact that he's helping these young men to get a college education. We're talking about the fact that he's helping these young men when they get out of college, they're going to have options. So when we talk about those things, it's not about saving the world, right? When we highlight the things that Coach Prime does to help these young men to better themselves, then it's not talking about Coach Prime saving the world, but the things that we're not serious about in our community, the things that our fathers in slavery fought for, the things that they lost their life for. When we talk about it, we want to joke about it. We want to say, ha 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 ha, oh great, Prime's going to save the world now. But yet, anything that Prime does breaks the internet, right? Prime left Jackson State. Oh, so he's going to save HBCUs now. It was a big ordeal. Everybody had an issue about that. So it's like, what do we want? Can we not discuss certain things because Prime is just not? It's just don't say it. What are we saying on that? Let me bring in out of my mind onto the show. Out of my mind, thank you for calling to the show. Are you a first-time caller? Can you guys mute your channel, your volumes, because I'm getting feedback. Out of my mind, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. First time.
All right, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling in.
All right. Yeah, so this is a good topic, right? I wanted to just start on an educational level, like you said. You're talking about this is an educational institution. Mm-hmm. So should we use the word inside of those grounds? But firstly, you're talking about people who like you just said, laugh and joke and make it into something that's like they don't really care about. You want them to now behave in a higher degree, so to speak. So I think the first thing that would have to be done is they would have to have an orientation. Like when I used to do orientations, when the kids are coming in, they're gonna have to have that discussion from the jump start. You know what I mean? And that way we can start having a discussion about eradicating the word altogether, because they first need to understand the impact and why they shouldn't be saying it, not just tell them cut it cold turkey. You know what I mean?
So like Willie said, we need education. Let me bring in Henry's View to the show. Henry's View, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling in. Are you a first-time caller?
First time caller. Hello, everyone on the panel.
Welcome to the show. So from an education standpoint, I mean, we're having a conversation. I know that it's a popular word in hip hop, and we use it in the Black community. I've used it on the show. I was excited. You know what I'm saying? I don't use it often because I don't need to. My vocabulary is pretty deep, even though I'm from Africa and people don't think we know words. But I'm just joking a little bit there. But should we even be talking about this? Is this important enough? And do you think if Coach Prime was to help us out, if he really wanted to help us out, he can put that on his list of things that he's already helping us with?
Well, I agree to the extent that I think Coach Prime should first start with the collective of the coaches in college football, not to the kids in college football. This has to be addressed among leadership that will then trickle down to those locker rooms. You can't start from the locker room up. It'll never work that way. And that the connotation of the word is going to be how it's received is going to be dictated by the person you're talking to. So I'm a man in my 60s, so I'm receiving that N word from a total different space than what someone in their 20s, 18, 19-year-old is going to receive the word. So it has to be addressed from a totally different dynamic, in my opinion.
And what do you suggest is that dynamic? Can you give us a few?
Yeah. First of all, I know all coaches in college are not going to do. I'm talking about the Power 5, HBCUs, everyone. He needs to address it first from that dynamic coaching staff. coaches, head coaches, leadership. Let's talk about this. This word's been used pervasively throughout our locker rooms. We're in it at a time now that media, social media is now driving the narratives of what the world is seeing about our locker rooms. And it started with what locker room first? A black locker room. It didn't start with Alabama, Georgia. It started with Jackson State. Now it's Colorado. You went from a black HSBC to now Power 5 PWI, led by the same guy. So now you got to say, okay, this is what we're seeing. This is a black locker room because realistically, it might be 97% white at that institution, but that locker room, I think, is probably reversed. It's probably 97% black, 3% white. So what's being delivered to the audience is coming from a black perspective in the locker room. Coach Prime can set the standard and say, look, this word won't be used. The other standard could be, well, we're not going to play music in our locker rooms anymore. I want you to put on a headset. You pick the music that you want to listen to, but it won't be projected over the whole locker room, so everybody can listen to what they want to listen to individually to get them in the mind space of the game. And then Coach Prime could talk to them through a closed mic system within everyone's system so that they hear them at one time. Then they take them off, get ready for the game and go. But you got to start it somewhere and address really what the word intent is, not for millennials and hip hop generation, is what it was originally intended for. The N word is not a good word in its initial connotation.
Harry, can I respond to that?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so I think I think we're putting too much on Coach Prime,
I agree.
to even start by saying he should address any other coaches or any other institution. His first objective is to win this year. Then I agree with the gentleman because the initial meaning of the word means ignorant. It means ignorant person.
Yeah.
So for us to even say that, it's implying that that person is ignorant, but we don't even understand the meaning, so we're ignorant, and how it went from that's how it's become so prevalent in the society because we don't understand it. But to put that on a man, not just Coach Prime, anybody, to be responsible for eradicating that word in its entirety throughout this NCAA system is a little overboard. And then to say, like, if we're going to discuss putting on headphones and discussing and talking to or addressing the kids through headphones, we're talking about an entirely new concept of communication, which then goes into how people communicate through social media, and they don't have that person-to-person communication. The
It
last thing I want
exists.
to say, is Coach Prime listens to the word himself. Like, he plays the words. Like, he loves Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne is one of the most disgusting, like, he has one of the worst vocabularies and content of all the rappers, but he loves them. Snoop. And I'm not saying I don't listen to them, but to say that Coach Prime is then gonna stop them from using these words when he listens to artists who use those words in like vulgarities beyond meaning or comprehension, that would make him look like a hypocrite. And all people are already calling him a hypocrite as it is. So I think, no, when we educate the kids, it doesn't need to be like a class. It needs to be in a social setting to let them know, look, this is what it means. This is why we should stop it, and this is why it's not good to use it towards other people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And what I don't want to call you out of my mind, but should I call you out of my mind? Is that
Yeah, because everything I'm saying is out of my mind, not from somebody else.
oh, okay, that's good. Thanks for giving me clarity on that. All right, so because I don't think you're out of your mind at all. So,
Huh.
but anyways, I agree. So I'm not by no chance trying to put some more weight on Coach Prime. I just want people to understand the conversation is not about putting anything else on Coach Brown's plate. Okay, I know he's doing enough. I respect what he's doing in college football, and he's not our savior. I know that, but keep in mind that some people think that he was the HBCU savior, and that's how I got here because people thought that he was the savior of HBCUs. So I'm like, yo, if you're calling him the HBCU savior, then let's put one more thing on there. Why not? Let's ask him. Can you help us out? Because I want to know from the panel, why is it that we don't feel some kind of way? I mean, I get the fact that okay, we're so many generations removed from the sting of the word that it doesn't hit us the same way anymore. But hey, why not? Like, hey, prom, I'm gonna say it like this: prom. This word means a lot to me, and it hurts. It hurts a certain part of me. You think that's something like you can start looking into, educating on? Maybe we should educate ourselves, or can you lead the charge on education on the N word so that a whole new generation can get education on this word because it's important to me? Like, can we start a group that says, hey man, what is the importance of the N word? Why is it a social ill and why we shouldn't use it? You know what I'm saying? If we're going to ask him to save the HBCUs, can I ask him to help me with this word? Is
But you know
that
what?
is that not, you know what I'm saying?
That's
Harry, I'll say that from and that's great because I was gonna bring this up since it's Wade in the Water Wednesday, is that let's just keep it real. You got some folks saying that that you can't expect Prime to be a savior, and I don't expect him to be savior, but some of you do. Because you've got other black coaches there, but you gravitate towards Prime. You got to ask yourself.
Exactly. That's
So at the
it.
end of the day, is you can't sit here and say, "I got a guy with a James Franklin, the top 10 repeatedly is in there," and you don't give him the same kind of love as Prime. And you can sit back and say it's gold jacket, but we're not talking about NFL. We're talking about college football. But the segue I would say is within the broaden, but still keep the tone of the conversation, but broaden it. I was going to bring up is that so we all looking at Prime and all saying this and what he means and all that. So again, you can't say what he means and turn around and say what. Well, you can't have it both. You can't have it both ways. But in one way you can. I would sit back and say, well, what are you getting from Prime as far as for you? Because obviously people are watching and observing. And I would challenge people in their life is that okay, you're seeing what he's doing, what you doing in your life. You see what
Yeah.
he getting out the portal. How you or he's dominating. How you dominate them 20 pounds? It's been 5 years since you said you would lose, and every New
Mm-mm.
Year's resolution you ain't losing. How about you sit back and saying what he getting out the transfer portal? Are you what or that he's gonna make Colorado great? When you getting your degree? When you going in to get the education or something like you're doing, see, that's what Prime should be saying. It's not just about what he means to us, just simply on our color, which that word has to do. What does he mean to you? And are you going to come from? He came from nothing to be at this level is awesome. So I don't want to take away from the conversation. We talk about the N word, but since we're gonna sit here and have that savior, not expectations. What's your expectations for you? Y'all hear me say I study Prime. And I study it because I'm always looking to see people who are great, phenomenal leaders. Because quick little story. I hear it. Y'all hear me talk about being a pilot and having a master's degree and all that. But what y'all don't know is that there was a point when I got out of the military the first time, man, that everything I owned was in collections. I was broke living in an apartment, man, and barely had enough to eat. And all my bills were jacked up. No degree, no master's, no none of that. Not even a sign of being a pilot. And then that was that lowest. I was like, I'm not gonna be there. So I didn't get here just because I snapped my fingers and stuff. No, baby, it was a lot of work. And so when we look at Prime, it's that taking that to there. It's that really we sit back and talk about all he gonna do, but that don't change your life at all. He can sit there and win 10 national championships. That don't make black people better. What you do as an individual makes it. So that's why we talk about when we drill back down to this word, why it's critical. It's because it's not just we saying it, it's asking those questions. Why are we saying it? Why are we calling at each other? And is there something better? I think there are far better words. Like when there's far better words for us to say. And I'm gonna pause right there.
I
So,
agree. I
so let me
agree.
let me
I
let me
agree.
let's take this approach. take the locker room. Take the word out the locker room. How? This is from KMS 929. Take the word out of the locker room. How do you discipline those that slip up and use it? And I'll just start off the conversation or the answer to saying, this is not about punishment. It's not about hitting people on the head if they slip up. Obviously, we all slip up, but I think you start with education. You start with letting people know, because when you're raising a child, when you give them an instruction, you're not beating them or doing something crazy every time they slip up. You keep emphasizing. You keep putting emphasis on it. Like, hey man, remember, we're not using that word. Or, you start, some people, they get a little bit more serious depending on how serious they really want the change. They'll put a little jar there and say, every time you use the word, drop some money in the jar. If you keep losing your money, usually when we lose our money, that's the thing that really that holds that value. Every time we lose something of value, we take things more seriously. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, like, it's not to take a sledgehammer at it. It's to start educating.
But
And
Harry, real quick, I just want to, and then I'm shutting up. Y'all realize back in like the 70s and stuff, and 60s and 50s, and Willie gonna get in my other brother, we used to call each other brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
We used to call each other brothers and sisters. And now we don't really hear that. We call each other all kind of different things.
we call each other the
And,
N-word.
right, and that's kind of what I'm sitting here saying, is that
That
if you saw the shift from coming right out of what segregation, Jim Crow, all that into this, and realize that those things meant something. So it's like, my brother's keeper. Well, are you that way when you say the word? So I'm gonna shut up and listen.
Can I jump in right there? Can I jump in right there? Because I'm sorry, brother. If you're done, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. I just wanted to say, because he brought up a good dynamic, right? He's talking about eras. So I wasn't born in the 70s. I was born in the 80s. So I have no relation to what you're talking about other than what was on the screen. Now, growing up in the 80s and growing up in the 90s, we used it, but some of us who understood or felt attached to that old era, we wanted to use different language and build up each other. But everybody wasn't on that type of time. Now you're talking about these and something. These aren't millennials. We're the millennials. I'm a millennial. I'm in my 40s. This new generation, they're not millennials. So you're talking about a completely new generation. So their language, the way that they communicate, the world that they live in is completely different. So they're even further attached from the 70s and the 60s. They don't know nothing about the Panthers, and now everything about the Panthers ain't even good. So we gotta look at things from a completely different perspective and try to connect the eras. Like Coach Prime is in his mid 50s. Nobody that's playing on his team saw him play on television. They have to watch videos. So the only reason they may gravitate to Coach Prime is because of their parents or because of the fact that he's connected to different mediums that they want to be a part of. But in order to connect his era and his way of thinking to their era and their way of thinking, Coach Prime has to come down to their level, and he's trying to do that, but he also has a team that does that as well. So I'm gonna stop there, but that's where we have to look at it. Like, it's not just about looking at, we used to call each other brothers and sisters, because it's deeper than that. It's the eras in between that kind of caused a further separation.
So I got a question for those who are opposed to this whole idea, this conversation. What is your sense of OG? What is your sense of community? What is your sense of, if you are, let's just say you are a troll, you're just saying a bunch of like stuff that doesn't really hit you well. Everything's a laughing matter to you. So then who is important? What is important to you in life? What is important to you to discuss to move your culture or your community forward? If you are a member of that specific community, and every time somebody talk about stuff like this and it doesn't hit you hard enough, it doesn't come into your cranium, to your membrane, it doesn't hit your third eye or your first eye or any eye at that, what member of the community or what part of the community are you serving? If nothing matters to you, if nothing matters at all, who's the OGs? Who are supposed to teach us? Who are the ones supposed to
Well,
uphold
Harry,
the fight that our forefathers had, and who is supposed to train us or help us to even move the community forward? But the second that a white person kills a black person, we're ready to go. So when do we have that conversation that helps us to be united before the white person kills the black person, so that we be united to go? So you're not always responding to incidents that rubs you.
well, Harry, we're easily triggered. So stimulation is one of the biggest leading points to confusion, right? So the word OG shouldn't even be used, because if you're not in the gang culture, I grew up in that environment. If you're not in the gang culture, you shouldn't be using OG first and foremost. The we used to say elders. So if you wasn't in the gang culture, then you would talk to the elders, or you would talk to the old heads or the older guys. You from New York, so I'm from up there as well. You understand that. So this is the first problem. Even trickling down that hip hop culture language and the gang culture language into the civilian language. I'm gonna stop right there.
Well,
Well, you know what? To add to,
the idea is talking to this generation. This generation doesn't understand elder. They don't understand the words that I would use if I'm not speaking to certain people. If I'm speaking to certain people, they've incorporated, just like the N word. We sag our pants, right? Do they not understand how when you sag your pants, you're sagging your pants because you were in jail and you wanted to you didn't want to be Cat Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like Cat Williams wanted to protect that virgin hoe. So people don't understand why we sag our pants. But like I said, the N word is so prevalently so prevalently used that OG has become a part of our vernacular, because it's just like the N word. We use things that we're not common to, or we're not used to, but we don't understand why we're using it, and that's the whole purpose of this conversation.
and you know what, Harry? Speaking of that word OG, man, it's so funny because I look at it now as a badge of honor. If I'm a little bit older, and if a guy and the guys that see me, they know I'm not 25 anymore, and they'll call me OG, and I look at them like, and then I begin to look at it like, say, wow, he really respects me. That's his way of saying, I respect you, I don't know what, but you've been here long enough. You got a little gray hair here, so I respect you. So I look at that, because I used to be offended by it. What do you mean, OG, man? I know, old guy. Wait a minute, Willie. You ain't 25 no more, okay? You ain't 30 no more, okay? So when the younger guy says OG, and I hear them say that, that's like a badge of honor. And that means that I have to respect them now. I mean, not that I didn't before. The respect is all automatically there because he gave it to me first. So and I don't know what it would. Never lived in New York, so I'm not sure of, the standards and how they did it, and what's behind it when they say. But I know now when I talk to guys, man, the respect is automatically there. So you can't be a lot of these guys are smart, man. A lot of these younger guys are smart, man. You can't be no idiot around it because they pick it up.
I think OG meant original gangster.
Yeah, I know.
But
Yeah.
and then they switched it OG from, like, who said it? Erica Ransom says OG. OG started to mean something else from gangsters, saying, all right, you've been around for a minute, and you can, you're my OG, you're my higher up, stuff like that. But let me bring in Coach Mike Lowry to the show. Coach Mike Lowry, welcome to the show. Should we even be talking about this N word in the locker room? Coach Mike Lowry, are you there?
What's up, boy?
How you doing, man?
Hold on.
All right.
Yeah, we need to talk about this.
Some people are being ignorant in the chat, saying that we shouldn't be talking about it. Coach Prime is not our savior. We shouldn't ask Coach Prime anything else. He's got enough to deal with. But hey, if we're gonna ask him to do X, Y, and Z, so many things that we're asking him for, if he's our hero and everybody's here and everybody's holding on to everything that he's doing, then wouldn't this be one of the most important things that plagues us in our society or in our Black community that we should ask him for?
So, to give you another backstory, my grandfather coached Coach Prime, and my grandfather hated that word. And my grandfather was one of the first deputized African American sheriffs in the last city to desegregate in the whole United States, which is where we from. I use the word Ninja.
Ninja.
And sometimes I catch myself, having conversations with people I growed up with, and that word slips out. It's a term of endearment now. It's just a ad lib word. And my generation, and probably the late 70s and early 80s generation, was the generation that reversed that word from Nigger to Nigga. And so we reversed the psyche that our forefathers was going through to use this word in a combat situation, in a spiritual realm, to dummy down the word and the emphasis on the word. We never knew what the 60s and the 50s and the 30s and the 40s went through, but we grew up around our grandparents and our uncles and our great uncles, and they, told us what that word meant to them. So they didn't want us using it. And so when you have people with the staff that Coach Prime has, and the length of time that those guys have on that coaching staff, and if a green bean guy comes and start using that word, it's going to raise some eyebrows. And they're right. If we're going to hold Coach Prime accountable, we have to hold his family accountable for using that word in his song. It's a derogatory word for people that are 45 to 50 and under. I mean, over, my bad. And 45 to 50 and under, it's a word of endurement. So
what is your prescription? I mean, you're kind of describing the idea, but what is your prescription for us in this locker room? I
just told you what I use. I use Nigga. I started out with my prescription.
Well, you say you use Ninja.
Yeah.
But that's not. I'm not gonna prescribe for the locker room to start using Ninja. That's just a cover up to say the same word, and it's still gonna remind them of what. Just getting rid of the word.
It don't have the same. It's how you deliver. How you.
Nah, I push back on that. I don't agree. I 1000% would say, you cannot say, okay, let's give you an alternative to that word and say Ninja, which is still a reminder of that same word. So
the word don't have the same. The word don't have the same meaning, Harry B. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We use the word in the South, like in every sentence.
I get it,
and now Spanish guys are starting to use it, as well as dirty white boys are starting to use it.
Well, listen, as somebody who's an advocate for us getting rid of something like that, I don't know that I would prescribe to say let's use a different variation so that we can. People have said that was a movement. I think it started with a comedian or something like that. I think I remember somebody saying ninja. So that way that we don't use the word Nigger. It's just a reminder of the word, and I wouldn't subscribe that for the locker room. The education has to come from a place where we say, if we're subscribing to it, if we're saying, okay, let's try to see if we can affect the locker room in a place of higher learning, then I cannot sit here as somebody who did go to college to say, from a higher learning mind, to say let's use ninja in replacement of Nigger or Nigga, then that's not education. That'll be
Well,
counter.
It's a term that's been engulfed in our language for now 50 years. So what I'm trying to say to combat that, when it's a part of our language, yeah, it's a what they call a double end window, and you should just get the word out of your vocabulary in general. But when you have guys growing up in that hip hop culture, and the locker room is hip hop culture, and the dress code is hip hop culture, it's hard for you to get that out of there. You got to change the dynamics of the culture and in the psyche of the environment. And so you have to.
You're suggesting because it's hard, we gotta ease them out of it. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's how they do you when you out there in the streets. They wean you off of stuff.
We're not talking about the streets. We're not talking about the streets. We're talking about
where it come from.
University. We're talking about a university. We're not talking about the streets at all.
I know, but the word is universal.
What do you mean?
I just told you, you got people using the word that aren't even supposed to be using the word, like Hispanics and.
But that's not the point here. The point, okay, this is the point here. This. Let me set up the premise so a lot of people that's in the chat that don't understand, so y'all understand. Waiting Wednesdays is this is the TLP live show. TLP, we talk about Coach Prime, we talk about the bus, we talk football. On Wednesdays, we're going to be doing wading. We're going to wade in the water. We're going to jump in the water and discuss topics, issues that are. If you guys can please mute your audio. Can you please mute your audio, please? We're jumping in the midst of discussions, things, issues that may be surrounding the college football arena, things that are in our communities that we're going to talk about. This is the time that we talk about those issues. And the first thing that I'm talking about is the N-word in the locker room. And the premise of this comes from just picking on the black kids first. I guess the first installment of this, the first episode of Waiting Wednesdays. We're at a higher learning institution. We are at a place where you come to educate yourself, to get education, go out in the world, join the workforce, or maybe become an entrepreneur. But this is where you're getting educated to go out into the world and make a better person of yourself. Coach Prime is an advocate of discipline, understanding your environment, understanding what you need to do in order for you to become a better person. And he knows that 95% of the students that are playing football, it could be a higher percentage, are not going to the NFL. So they are going to be going into the workforce. And as DC articulated earlier, when you are in the workforce, you cannot use this word. So this is a word that you're going to have to get rid of anyway at a certain point, or you're going to have to code switch when you go into the work world. When you're going to be sitting in a cubicle as a former Colorado player, in a few years, you're going to be sitting next to somebody, and in that cubicle or in that environment, you are not going to be allowed to use this word. So I'm talking about at a university, at a place of learning. Should this be a place where we start an education of the word, the N-word, what it meant to the millennials, what it understands, so they can understand it? Because we have this great opportunity. Everybody talks about the opportunity that Coach Prime had to save the HBCU. So this is just another opportunity for us to discuss something that plays the black community, which is the N word, and that's why I'm talking about it today. So
Well,
that's why
Harry,
we're
if
talking
you
about this specific issue. And should we even bring it up? It's on the board today, using the N word in the locker room. All right, let me go. Let me go to Henry's view. Henry's view.
Yeah,
If
I'm here.
if we are to get rid of this word, how do we do it? And is it fair to put this all on Coach Prime? We're not putting it all on Coach Prime, but is it fair that we're discussing it in the terms of Coach Prime?
First of all, we start at the position of to whom much is given, much is required. We as a culture have placed this mantle upon Coach Prime. Coach Prime has accepted this mantle and is running with it. So from that perspective, yeah, we should look at Coach Prime to first establish a culture that he said he wanted, because you can't have character as part of the narrative of your culture and say this is acceptable. At some point, you got to say, okay, we got to start weaning this out, because I'm building a man of excellence, of standard, and of character to go out into the world. Be he NFL, I want him to affect the NFL locker room. If he goes into a boardroom, I want him to affect the boardroom. If he goes into whatever environment, workforce, entrepreneurship, I want him to affect that environment. And the N word does not set you apart. It makes you conform to an establishment. It does not set you apart in excellence.
So Phil, I want you to talk about that. The what Henry's view just said. The idea of character and character being a part of what Coach Prime is teaching, and you stepping into the world with character. How does the N word play within that whole character discussion?
Well, I don't think you can say that somebody has good or bad character just because they use the word. I think there are a lot more things that that you need to look at to determine somebody's character. But I will say someone with good character or an upstanding citizen, would not go out of their way to hurt somebody. So if it was a black player trying to, use it derogatory towards another black player, you wouldn't see that because their character is in check. Um, I personally don't think this is something that Dion cares about because we've already seen when he cares about something or he's been called to do something. Like you said, he want to say, well, you believe me when I said God called me to go down to Jackson State. So why when he called me collect, to come to uh, Colorado. So I don't think it's something that's been laid on his heart right now because we know when it's something that's been put on him and it's weighing on him, he's gonna fight for it tooth and nail. So I don't even think this is something he's been called to do. So I don't think it's a major concern, and I don't think the use of the word or the lack of the use of the word makes you a person of great or lesser character.
So DC, can you answer that as well? Like, it's does the N word speak to character at all? DC.
I I don't think it does, and I think we have. Now I'm a single man, um, and I'm just interested. I've had conversations with women say, "Well, I'm looking for somebody that is very successful with a little thug in them." I said, "It's interesting. You say you want a little thug, but you never say you want a little accountant, because all this money you want them to make, he's gonna need to be able to account for it. So maybe maybe you have misplaced priorities, man." Y'all can tell I'm kind of intense when it comes to a point. When you take it there, I'm gonna go, oh, wait a minute. Let's. I think we have to have roadmap conversations, and what that is where do we want to go to be the best that we can be. I think that any black person, let me say this, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna pound on the table of it. It's that when you are when you are a black male, and so as black females, and you are in these visible positions, tag you're it. You should be representing this culture and representing our people as best as you can. So how you walk, you talk, regardless, I don't care what you say. We do not have that luxury to not stand. I know Chris Charles Barkley said, he said, I ain't trying to be a role model. Too bad. When you're standing in these positions, you must take it there. So there's some things you can't do because just real quick, I remember growing up, you could go to the skating rink for hardly nothing, movies, all kind of stuff. And I'm gonna tell you when it changed. It was changed when we started getting into gangster rap era where you went to a skating ring and it might get lit up. And from that standpoint on, our communities changed. I don't even really call it a black community, but we still have black connectivity. But
Mhm.
how we commune, it's because we say I got to get mine versus being to a point of looking out for each other. And I think that we've got to shift that. Now, as far as what we follow, Coach Prime, we want him. Think about this, folks. Y'all want him to be successful so that he can establish a view, a global view about African Americans being able to be coaches. Well, these are some of those micro things that can go along with supporting that. It's not just him getting a national championship, but also us starting to believe some things about each other. And should be an uplifting. Basically, you creating that a updraft where we can all fly on those the where there's wind that we can all fly off of. I mean, think about Harry's got a show where we can talk about Prime, and there's a lot of different angles he can go into. And so that's what I'm gonna sit back and say is that just wrapping this up is that I don't think the N word is advantageous to. I know that we use it, but it's not. I want somebody to show me how it's advantageous.
I don't think it is. We are a wonderfully made people. And if I had to come back another color, die and come back another color, I'd be another black man. Prime said this, Harry, and you remember this. He said, "Send me a boy, and I will send you back a man." Enough said.
You wanna unpack that a little bit? It's in, but I guess the pushback or the insignificance of the topic in some people's eyes is the fact that the word has lost so much sting for their generation.
True.
So
Yeah,
if we were in a different generation and we had an opportunity to say, let's have a discussion on somebody who is an impact person in the community, and see where we can push on him or lean on him to start a discussion on getting rid of something that is such a sting on our community. Maybe this topic or this discussion would be more relevant, but people are just brushing it off as if this is not a relevant conversation because the word has no value anymore to our community. Nobody cares anymore to our community, but yet it's such a sting. And anytime somebody else outside of our community calls us, we still get upset, which is kind of weird.
really mad. Really pissed off,
Yeah.
It's the
It's, it's-
same using the word B. It's become a commonplace. And when you're talking about a woman, now you want to, they call themselves bees. In my era, that's the word you would never use to describe a woman. We wouldn't say the P word. I don't know if we can cuss on this channel or not, but
nope, we can't.
it's
We can't
it's
cuss at
it's
all. You
it's
cannot say the
words that
word.
you could not use and would not use because it was ingrained in you through the culture. We don't use those words. Those are bad words. You
Hmm.
don't teach your child to walk around if they hear you cuss and they cuss right behind you, you immediately correct it. Now, baby, we don't say that word. I'm sorry, Pop. You shouldn't have used that word. You shouldn't say that word. But we let the N word go like it's nothing. If we made it the same connotation as you walking around cussing, I wouldn't walk around in normal conversation. Hey, how you doing, ma'am? You ain't nothing but a B. You would look at me crazy. But we walk around, hey man, what's up? You ain't nothing, you my N. It's why? It don't make sense.
Yep, that's right. So I listen. We're waiting in these situations. We're gonna be waiting on Wednesdays, and we're gonna dig into some of these ills of society. It's not always gonna be me picking on black people. It's not gonna be always racial. It's gonna be situations that we discuss that I feel like have some type of importance to the overall discussion of our community.
Hey
Harry,
Harry,
Now, so that's why I brought up
Harry,
the
that,
can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
yes, sir.
All right, so I'm glad you just said that. One dynamic to this whole discussion is all right. You and this might be a little controversial, but the way that a black person from America uses the word is different from the way that a black person from that migrated to America uses and thinks of the word. In my opinion, How would you look at that word, knowing that you're from Liberia and everything that happened with the Civil War and how the Americans and whatever went over there and caused those problems? How do you look at the word in relation to how we look at the word?
Well, we got to qualify what you're saying. It's not that simple. When you say we has to we deal, because I've been here since
What I
1989.
mean,
I was
what I
12
mean
years.
we, what I mean with we, I mean all of my all of my relatives are from America, and
But
sometimes,
you're a
hold
small
on,
demographic.
one,
You're
no,
not the
no,
entire
I'm
black
saying,
community.
you're right, but for instance, one time not one time, many times I've had interactions with Africans where
Mhm.
they use the word towards me in a derogatory way, and it felt different from when, let's say, someone I grew up with used the word. So I'm
And that's
asking
where the
you,
problem is.
okay?
That's
So
where the problem stems from. Somebody's cussing you, and you don't even feel that. So your own family member is cussing you, but you don't even feel that they're cussing you. When somebody else cuss you, then you get angry.
well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I
I'm
didn't
just
say that
I'm
I
giving
don't
you an
feel that
example.
way.
I'm not saying I'm giving you that African proverb answer.
Okay.
That's the African proverb answer. When somebody is cussing you, somebody is doing you wrong, but because you have looked at it in a different way, you're not looking at it as you're not looking at it as a cuss because it's coming from your own family. But the second that somebody takes the scar off that is outside of your family, then all of a sudden you see the scar,
Right.
and
So that's what.
that's where
Right.
the issue is.
Right.
You should be educated enough to see the scar
Right. So
and
that's what I'm
not
saying.
go ahead.
That's the so that's the angle that I'm talking about, because the kids that we're referring to, they may not see it in that way. They don't see it in that broad spectrum. You understand? So when you have all these people coming together and they all look the same way, they're using the word in different ways. So before we start to eradicate it, yes, I think Coach Prime, hypothetically, Coach Prime should be responsible for it, hypothetically. But we also need to understand what, like we said all
Remember,
throughout
I'm
this
not talking
conversation,
about eradication of the word N-word. I'm talking about using the
inside
N-word
the
in a
inside the schools,
college locker room.
inside the schools, it should be eradicated because,
Mhm.
like you said, it's a place of higher learning. So first and foremost, when you go to the next level after college, you cannot use those words or any other words. You can't even speak about politics inside the workforce. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So yes, it should be on his shoulders, hypothetically, to eradicate it within the walls of the college institutions. But before all of that, the kids need to understand from the different angles how the word is used, and that's how we can start to understand the
All right, so let me answer
degradation.
your question without don't interrupt me. Let me answer your question. Because a group is ignorant, it does not mean that we should keep them ignorant. Now, I don't like the separation of Africans and African Americans because we all look the same when that gun fires. We all look the same when they do us dirty. We all look the same. So I don't accept anything lower or anything less to say, well, we using it different. So you can't use it when you say it with the girl. We say it with the guy. I've been here long enough to know that I'm part of the culture of hip hop culture. So I can't say I accept your ignorance because I look at it from a place of ignorance. I don't look at it from a place of endearment, right? From an educational standpoint, we all got to look at it from that place. We're all guilty of using the word because of the hip hop culture, but the person that's teaching us, the person that's telling me different, the OG or the elder that's telling me, hey, young man, my Uncle Rufus from Georgia, when he teaches me, he says Harry B, or he says Harry O. That's what he calls me. Uncle Rufus teaches me, Harry, let me teach you about, when he sits me down, he says, Harry, let me teach you about that word that you're using. And then he starts to educate me on the historic value or the historic nature of that word. So now I get angry. I can't wait to get angry when my boys are using it fairly. I can't wait. I gotta be angry then when me and my boys are using it, so I stop them. So I was a young man coming to in America when that word was being prominently used. So I'm not different. I'm not any different. But I just want you to know that issue hurt all of us. There shouldn't be nobody getting a pass because that's what they're used to in America. We should all be angry and equally angry when that word is used, and don't leave one person to be ignorant. Now I'll give you this, and I got to move on. In America, we have this thing where we sing a lot of songs. I've seen this meme on I think TikTok or YouTube Shorts, where in the classroom in America they're challenging the kids to do math. It's like in the classroom in like the Asian communities, they're challenging the young men to do math and to challenge each other's brains. In the American classroom, we're teaching about accepting of one person's views and all of these things. So we're teaching something totally different from what we need to go into the world to handle these big issues that we're going to handle with the rest of the world that we're in competition with. While America, I thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I just wanted to acknowledge you. So it's like we're teaching something in our community of acceptance while the rest of the world is understanding the idea of unity and everything else. So here we are, or of education. So here we are, on one sense, oh, you know what? Let's do this in our community while the rest of the world is 10,000 miles ahead of us. That's why I'm like, I have to hold my community because you look like me. I cannot say you are separate from me. So I understand why you use NIGGA and I use NIGGER, and that hurts you. It should hurt both of us equally. That's how I feel. Okay. So let me bring this up, and then the show is over. But let me share my screen and on this information, and then we go ahead and finish off, and you guys can share your perspective on this before we leave. Florida State transfer linebacker DJ Lundy withdraws from the transfer portal. Florida State linebacker DJ Lundy has withdrawn, according to On3 transfer portal. From the transfer portal, signaling a return to Tallahassee, On3 has learned the former three-star prospect committed to Colorado in December withdrawn from the portal reflects an athlete returning to their entry institution. When an athlete commits to a program and enrolls, their status shows as matriculated. Okay, you guys can. Is that the word?
Matriculated.
Matriculated. Okay, that's the word. Matriculated. All right. So Lundy became a key player on the Seminoles defense this past season. So he's removing his name from the transfer portal. No speculations into the idea of when somebody removes their name, but according to the news, if they're removing their name from that transfer portal, that could mean that they are going to be returning to their former institution that they were at. What do you guys think about that, so that we can end the show on that note?
Okay, if he wants to go, let him go.
So let me put this out there. Let me just remind all of us that we had no linebackers. This is a situation where this was one of the biggest draws for us as far as a linebackers room. We had Levante Bentley would probably be the biggest names that we can draw, because we had a situation where you had to get your safety Trevor Woods to play linebacker. The linebacker that we had that was starting that Trevor Woods replaced, he moved on to a different school. He transferred out. So DJ Lundy coming into Colorado was a big deal for us, and that was something that we celebrated. So that was a big draw for us. That was a big deal for us. So this would be I look at this as a big disappointment for us. The fact that he's gone, I don't know the reasons surrounding why he's leaving, why he's going back to Florida, or why he's deciding to move his name out of the transfer portal. So from that premise, I want to make sure that we address it from that, so that we don't do the regular thing that we do. We don't do that Bob Felicia situation.
No, I mean it's good for him, but back
Yeah.
to Coach Prime, this is the year of expectations. So now Coach Prime need to do some work because if we lost a linebacker who was rated in the top two this year, then we just lost a very significant part to our 2024 season. So yeah, he gotta do some work.
This is kind of what we suggest that this is kind of late in the game to be losing such highly rated linebackers.
No, not
Uh,
necessarily.
But you lost the anchor. You lost. That's the thing about it. People were anchoring on that defense, like we
Yeah.
talked about the tackles plugging the holes and the linebackers playing from side to side. And I'm real curious to see what Coach Lowry's got to say about it. But those are those things that you're saying that because I know Coach Lowry's been watching that film. Is that you gotta think about it. We talked about being able to stop the run because the run eats up time and it takes away possessions. Those two things that they do is and if you're not on the field, you can't score. So if you don't have that guy and you then what winds up happening? So like we're all doing our predictions and stuff on sight unseen, other than what the film says. I don't think you can lose a guy like that and it not or not have a guy like that and there not be somewhat of an impact.
But delay, I'm gonna throw this one at you guys. Delay is not denial. There are other players out there, and like you said, Coach Prime they got to get on the horn. They got to do some work. But delay is not denial. I still think we're gonna get that linebacker that we need. Okay, it's happening at a good time. I believe that, and so um, I'm gonna just trust the process. I'm not gonna freak out. I ain't gonna. I'm tired of freaking out over stuff that happens in the portal. I'm tired of freaking out that Coach Prime and them do, And delay is not denial. Let's just wait and see. Hopefully they can get a guy in there that's pretty good, and I believe
Well,
they will.
I agree with you that we don't need to freak out, but at the same time, we celebrate the victories. So what's the response when we have like a failure or a loss? So I believe that Coach Prime got thick skin. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Any fan base has ones who celebrate and criticize.
yeah,
I think this year the so-called fan base needs to be a little bit more critical. Like, look, we want to be part of winners. Whether no matter what team you root for in any capacity, you want your team to win. But
yeah,
we also know the chemistry or the science behind winning. So this right here is an L. It doesn't. I don't think it's gonna affect that much because there's a lot of linebackers out there, and I don't think he was a great coverage linebacker to begin with. So and we have linebackers on the roster already, but he just needs to do some work. We need
yeah,
to hold him accountable. That's it.
yeah,
Hey Harry, and I think this goes to that point we were talking about doing a live stream for the national championship. Is do you
Mhm.
have faith in Dion being able to coach and develop talent? So now, I think it's fair to say or assume that he is going to be able to find another linebacker. They may not be as talented as DJ, but I definitely think he'll be able to find somebody to come in. But now that you won't be able to find somebody as talented as him, can you coach up those guys that were already in the locker room last year and get them to play above their level? And I think this is going to be a good opportunity for Dion to show whether he can or cannot do that.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know that anything can replace talent. I mean, coaching or not coaching, I think you got to have talent. Coach Brown believes in the guys that he's recruiting. So if he believes in them, I believe he can coach them. That's not an issue. But when you have raw talent like a DJ Lundy, or you have raw talent like that's on the Michigan staff. I mean, then let's take the Tom Brady situation, right? If we're looking at the Tom Brady's of the world, the talents of the world, the talents make the coaches look like they're brilliant coaches.
But
You
Harry, but think
take
about this though.
hold on. Let me finish this.
Go ahead.
Take the linebackers that are on the Michigan that just won, or take Georgia's linebackers, right, and give them to a different coach, and let's see how much Kirby Smart or how much the coach from the what's the name from Michigan is the Harbaugh is, right? So it's not like Coach Prime can't coach. So we keep questioning, or you keep questioning his ability to coach or coach up, but he's been coaching for a very long time. So it's not a matter of can he coach. I believe he can coach, but there's nothing that's ever going to replace raw talent, the ability to be able to make the things that the coach is giving you to execute the things that a coach is giving you. If you don't have that ability, it doesn't matter how much this coach can coach. He would be coaching the heck out of those kids, but because the talent that he has, that he's coaching, just doesn't equal to the other talent on the other side, you would never look at it and say, oh my gosh, he weren't able to coach him up. But they have the talent over there. So how much weight does coaching have versus the talent that they're coaching?
Well, consider Mike Bobo took a walk on and won a natty. And I think you have that with
Walk on
Georgia.
doesn't mean the player doesn't have talent.
Well,
That
what
means
I'm
that he
saying, what I was saying is that Harbaugh is known for being able to coach up, and that
Right.
Kirby is able to coach up as well. And mainly is because of like Mike Bobo, and so that's the thing. That's the thing that you're making a great point on is that if you don't have those great developers, you're gonna have to have talent on that field, or else it's not going to work as well. It'll work, but it may not work as well, or at least it may work like they could go, win this championship next year, but not have the consistency at the top, like TCU.
Well, is he
Yeah,
the only talented brother in America? Aren't there other talented linebackers out there?
that's not the point.
Well, the point, yeah, because what it's saying, you're saying that he's great talent, he's great talent, he's great talent. He's not the only one. Okay, for his coach's ability to coach up. Okay, yeah, that would be a challenge. But what if there's and Harry, you knows about this. What about the ram in the bush? Is there a ram in the bush? And can you believe for the ram in the bush? See where I'm going with
but
this, guy? And this was part of your thing, what you were talking about yesterday, brother. I wasn't
Yeah,
on
but there's
on
talent.
what.
But Willie, I'll tell you this though: there's talent everywhere. I mean, when we lose a talent, can we say is he the only talent in the world? It's like, well, no, but we got to get them. I mean,
We
they're
got to
out
get.
there, but
We got
we
to
got
get
to
him.
get the other talent. Where are we going to find them? That should be the question. We know that
Question.
there's other talent. That's not the only talent, but I want to stick on the idea of coaches.
Okay.
I'm gonna do a show about coaches. I just got to do the research and get some data on it. But the way that I look at coaches as far as player talent coach relationships is that when you have like there's something about a player that comes in and they may need a little bit of direction for you to coach them, and then they start to like whether they walk on or they came in with that talent, whether the talent is blatant and everybody can see. I think when you start to coach, you understand who you have and who's in that locker room. But I don't. It would be hard to show to really evaluate whether Coach Prime can really coach or whether you'll be able to tell. Because what happens, and I'll ask you this, Phil. What happens if one of the guys that was in the room, what happened? Or one of the red shirted linebackers. What happens if they have a breakout year? What do you associate that with him coaching them up, or do you think they were already talented? And do you think the conversation will move to say Coach Prime ain't do nothing? Nothing. That guy was already talented.
no, I'm gonna look at a guy based off of where he was the previous year and his potential when he first came into college. And I always am gonna give coaches credit because you can be the most talented guy in the world, but you gotta have somebody that can bring it out of you. So it is two parts to it. There has to be something down in there.
Yeah.
The coach got to have something to work with, and he got to be able to pull it out the player. But the player also, to your point, is going to have some type of talent to even be able to get to that point. So I think it's twofold. I'm perfectly fine with giving Coach Sanders, Dion, Coach Prime, whatever you want to call them, credit for pulling out the best out of players. Because if we're going to be honest, not all of the guys that are there are 4 and 5 stars. So if you can get a guy that's a 3-star to be playing above his level, then I'm gonna give you credit for that. And the DC's point, not Carson Beck, uh, Bennett, the quarterback for Georgia the previous 2 years. Yeah, you can say he had really good guys around him, but that was a walk on that they were able to get the most out of. And that says something about a coaching staff.
Yeah.
So we look at walk-ons as if you weren't able to get a scholarship, then you weren't that great to begin with.
I'm gonna put it like this: would you rather have a team full of 4 and 5 stars or a team full of walk-ons at Colorado? I'm just saying that they're walk-on for a reason. Not a lot of people were looking at them like that. I'm not saying that they're terrible, they're trash, but there got to be something to it. If they're walk-on.
Question,
I'm
Eric.
liking that.
We
And
hold that question. Go ahead with your question.
if memory serves me correct, the current squad at Colorado from last year, 90%, or I would say 88% of them came to the school in June, correct? They weren't even brought over through the portal to after spring game, correct?
You said 90. It wasn't that high of a percentage.
Yeah, it was. Okay, I'll give you 70.
You saying, hold up? What was your question again? Could you ask the question again?
70% of the squad that played last year came in after the spring game. That was when Colorado had the mass exodus. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know that stat to
Yeah,
be that accurate.
I'll go and pull the numbers, but I'm pretty sure it's close to that. So I don't think a last look position is even on the table yet. I think a lot of kids are gonna go play through the spring game and say, okay, I see I don't have a position here. I'm gonna be, third or fourth in line. I want to play. I'm a 4-star, but I got so many guys ahead of me. Let me get in the portal and go to where I can actually play. I think Colorado has a lot of opportunity to get excellent players through the portal. And if you pull the stats of Hall of Fame players and great players in the NFL, I think a vast majority of them were 4-star and lower, not 5-star players that were greatness. So, and players need position coaches. Coach Prime can't coach every position and every player. He can give directives to what he want to see, but that's why he select coaches for the position. And those kids need those coaches to bring that talent out of them.
All right, guys. Any other thoughts on DJ Lundy before we move on? I gotta close the show out. It is after 2:20. We are 20 minutes over. We had to talk about this DJ Lundy situation before we got off. Any last thoughts on DJ Lundy and the effect of that on the team?
It's a loss, but it's detrimental.
Who was that? What did you say?
It's a loss right now, but it's not detrimental to next year's play.
Okay. All right, guys. So let's have final thoughts on the discussion that we had. We talked about today was Wade Wednesday. Wade Wednesdays is pretty much going to be talking about situations that are surrounding the college football, Coach Prime. So final thoughts on Wade Wednesdays. The discussion that we had was using the N-word in the locker room. What are your final thoughts? Willie, please go ahead.
Under 2 minutes.
Under 30 seconds.
All right, under 30 seconds.
Well, 30 seconds at least, or a minute.
All right. When I was growing up, I grew up in a time where I remember the water fountains where it said colored only. I was a young child then. Okay, I might be dating myself, so what? I don't care. But I remember the signs, where I remember those things, which I didn't, but I did, when it said colored only. I remember, when the buses, when they had the barricades on them and stuff like that. This is just my experience. And so with that being said, that's just part of, who I am. It's still there. It's still in me. So I don't do a lot of things now because of we all, most of us, majority grew up here, and we have a great history for it. Some of us are greater than others, but that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I just wanted to share that with the panel.
All right, Phil So Real, what are your last thoughts? What are your final thoughts on today's Waiting Wednesday show?
Yeah, like I said, man, if you feel like the word shouldn't be in the locker room, I agree. If you don't care if they use it, I agree too. My only thing is if you say that it should be out the locker room, I just don't know how you mandate that. But I appreciate the fact that you're willing to at least have a conversation and let us come on and talk about it. I appreciate it.
For sure, for sure. DC Carson Music. Brother, what are your final thoughts on today's Waiting Wednesday show, Locker Room Talk about the N-word?
Roger that. I want to mention an acronym as I close, and that's TAP. And what that means is time and place. There's a time and place for everything, and how you tap dance can determine how you succeed. I know. So the point being is that at a college campus, that's a word that I feel shouldn't be used. My challenge to everybody is that examine it for yourself. If you're using it, should you use it? Is that something you need to remove out of your vocabulary? But at the end of the day, it is the institution of higher learning. And if they're going to go off and be successful in the corporate world, there are some things you cannot say, or it could cost you your reputation. It can cost you money. If you're a business owner and you say that to somebody, you can wind up being in a lawsuit. So those of you that are thinking about being entrepreneurs, you've got to consider all that. That's all I have.
Thank you so much for that. Mike Lowry, are you still here, Coach?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, sir. What are your final thoughts about the situation that we talked about, talking about the N-word in the locker room?
That's a great topic because it's a word that's being used in all different races now. And to the people like Tennis Channel and many more that come on this channel, is very offensive. And to my grandfather, is very offensive. And, with using that word any place other than in the confines of your close circle, is a derogatory word to some people. And we got to be mindful of who we're offending and how we're offending them. And we just got to, do better, up our vocabulary, Like me, I'm trying to replace the word with ninja instead of replace the word with brethren.
Yeah.
And so I have to be mindful of the things that I'm going through as a person when I'm trying to develop myself with better ethics and morals and values. Because I'm gonna get around some people one day, and if the old me keeps flustering up, the old behavior is gonna fluster up, and it's gonna close some doors that I done got in and open up, and the Most High done open up for me, and I done got them closed because of my one-track thinking. So we need to keep away from that one-track thinking and always try to elevate each other around us.
Well, hopefully this show has helped somebody get elevated in their thinking. So I appreciate what you just said. All right, Henry's View. Thank you for joining the show for the first time. I appreciate you joining in today. What are your final thoughts on this Waiting Wednesday, the N-word in the locker room?
I appreciate you for having me, Harry. And to the rest of the panel, thank you guys for all your views and comments. It was enlightening to me. For me, the N-word, like I said, I'm 60 years old. I remember being a young child on the front line of some marches and demonstrations during the closing of that era where we were trying to get equality. As a kid, my mother had us, she was a card-carrying Black Panther member. I live in the South, Texas. Some people don't consider that the South, but I never heard another Black man use that word towards me and other people of color growing up as a child. It wasn't until I got into my 20s that it became acceptable to use that word talking to your brother, sister, instead of saying, hello, my young brother, hello, my young sister, that word ninja, I'll use my man's version of it, was utilized to talk to another man of color. So for me, it needs to be eradicated. And I know more people in this country use that word than black people because we're only 13% of the population. It's a whole lot more people that are using that word that has been popularized through movie and music. So I think it should be eradicated in that professional space because we're creating professional men.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say I was just answering somebody that was talking about Shamadre Chambers. Um, I would say Shamadre Chambers is somebody that needs an OG. They need to understand. Like that's why I do these things because I don't, you know, somebody may like when I'm teaching my children. My 8-year-old, he's a I don't know if you call it a kinesthetic learner, but he moves around, and he moves. But when you ask him what you just said, he's able to repeat it to you quickly because he's getting it while he's moving. So there are going to be people around us that are agitators, but I feel like if we're quickly shooting them away and we quickly spat at them, I don't know that, because OG sometimes they have more patience than certain people. So they'll allow you to learn in your own way. Some of these topics may be agitating to certain people and they don't care. They just want to move on and they'll clown emoji. They will put smiley faces, but they're learning something. They're taking something from the conversation. So some of us, we have to be the mature person in the group. Sometimes we have to be the mature one to bring up stuff that are hard to have, discussions that are hard to talk about, things that the general public would just laugh off and say, why talk about that? But then when we start having the other conversations, then they want to be like black lives matter. This thing matter. I think black lives matter in the situations that we don't want to talk about. So black lives should matter when you're going into the, when somebody like a Coach Lowry is telling you, hey man, I want to go into situations where my old past doesn't come up, where my tongue is so trained that I don't have to code switch, where I'm using better words. You know what I'm saying? Those are situations where black lives should matter too. But if we're so easy to just use low hanging fruit words, then it can come up in situations where we're trying to get money, like DC says. If we're trying to get money and we're going to be in situations where those words can slip up, then those are situations where black lives should matter too. But sometimes I feel like in our community, it's hard for us to take certain things seriously, and then when people don't take us seriously, then it hurts our feeling. So we got to start with taking ourselves seriously first before somebody can take us seriously. Because whenever we bring up these type of things, some people don't want to hear it. But yet, when we talk about other things, then it's time for us to get serious. So when is it okay to start getting serious? And yeah, I did a show like this. I'm doing Waiting Wednesdays because it was a conversation that we had, and I felt like maybe let me take one day out of the sports talk where we talk about serious issues, where we talk about issues we can wade in the water, because the idea of wading in the water is because when the waters are troubles, that's when the healing is. When you step inside the water, when you're willing to talk about the issues, when you're willing to step inside the issues and talk about the issues, that's when the change comes. That's when you're able to, that's when you're able to get the change. If we're always
Wading in the water, little
so,
children.
so when if we're not willing to jump in the water, if we're not willing to ever tackle these issues, then guess what? don't be upset when we're having a bigger conversation. Nobody cares about what you think because you didn't take anything else serious. And that's what this is important. That's what this is about. And I'm not trying to shame you, Shamadre Chambers. I just want to let you know that I don't mind taking the dart from you. I don't mind. I forgive you for laughing at me for trying. I forgive you, Shamadre Chambers, for making fun of me for trying for my community. So I'm not perfect. But if we're going to shame me, if you're going to laugh at me while I'm trying, then I want to know what efforts you're making. Because Black lives only matters when the white cops is shooting us. Because when the black person is trying, then you're laughing at them when they're trying to bring about some change, when they're using their YouTube time where I'm not making no money from coming up with this topic. I make more money talking about the ignorant topics. But if I'm trying, you're laughing at me, and I forgive you for that. I forgive you for laughing at me. But somebody's got to try. Somebody's got to take the L for us. And I got people who are living their lives. A young man who is retired early at 50-something years old, who took time to come on this panel to share his wisdom. A man with the tennis channel who is taking time out of his words, out of his workday or out of his day to come and share some wisdom with us. A Coach Mike Lowry who's taking time to come and share some wisdom with me. A Henry's View who's taking time out of his day to come and share some wisdom with us. But yet you're laughing at us because it's silly to you. But then when our community starts to hurt, now you'll be ready to talk. So, but I forgive you. And I hope that you forgive me if I made you feel uncomfortable for being my guest. But I would not get rid of you because I will not block you. Because if I block you, then how does that help you? It doesn't help you because you need to hear my words. And it's okay that you're laughing at me, and it's fine that I would take it. So that's what it is. All right, gentlemen. I thank you for having these conversations with me. It's not necessarily monetarily beneficial to me to have these conversations, but I feel like everything I feel like I'm going to be okay. And I'm a little emotional right now because I'm hurt. I hurt from my community. And some of these issues are issues that we need to tackle. And that's why I try to do it. And we all got to do our part. And that's what I hope that I'm doing. And you add to that. And I just wanted to thank you, Tennis Willie. I thank you, DC. I thank you, Coach Mark Lowry. I thank you, Henry. I thank you, and I respect everything that you're doing to help me out. Thank you, guys.
One thing I want to tell you before you go, I didn't know what the waiting mean until you gave that emphasis, waiting in the water, and that song came right back to me, man. One of those old Pentecostal hymns.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot for you to break it down to me. Now I understand what you was talking about, because I didn't understand. Like, I'm in the chat looking at, I thought we was gonna be talking about the Wade twins or whatever.
Yeah. So waiting. Yeah, for those who missed it, when the lame guy, the guy that was hurt, when he was out when he was sitting by the pool, when Jesus came and Jesus like, what are you doing? He was like, well, when the angels come to stir up the water, I can't get in. And when the water is being stirred and you get in, that's when you get your healing. And so the song came out of that, waiting in the water. And Harriet Tubman used it as a code to get people to let them know, to get the slaves to let them know, get inside the water because you have a smell on you. And the slave masters, the slave catchers, used to use dogs to actually catch the slaves. So she used it as code. She used that song as a code to say, wait, this song. So when they were singing that song, it was to let the people that wanted to break out, the people that wanted to use the railroad, say, meet me in the water. Get inside the water because the water takes the smell away from you and the dogs would not track you. So that was another way that they used that song to for the Underground Railroad. So waiting in the water is you got to jump in the water for your opportunity. You got to jump in the conversation to get the conversation moving. You have to get inside of the water if you want your healing. We cannot be afraid of wading in the water or jumping in the water if we want change to happen. So that's all I'm doing. That's why I said waiting Wednesdays. So every Wednesday we're gonna jump into a conversation that may be tough. It may sound silly to some, but at least it gets the conversation going, and it moves the needle down the road so that we can deal with some serious issues. Because everything it can't be about, oh, nobody's doing anything. We're doing something. At least we're trying, right? That's what we're doing. At least we're trying here.
Right.
Yeah.
We appreciate you, Harry.
You're
Give
welcome,
us
guys.
opportunity.
All right, man. You guys are welcome, and thank you for being a part of this and helping me to bring this message to everybody. Thank you so much, guys.
Good job, Harry.
All right, guys. So I will see y'all on tomorrow. Tomorrow we talk more football. We get back to the football talk. I'm sure DJ Lundy leaving will be a part of this conversation tomorrow. So we'll talk more football tomorrow. But today we've waited and we tried our best. Have a blessed day, everyone. Have a blessed day. Peace out.
Peace out.
All right. All right, folks. So that was the first installment of Waiting Wednesdays. I'm not going to be afraid to bring up the conversations. I'm not going to be afraid to talk about the issues that are either around our community or around Coach Prime and the situations that we're talking about and the situations that just come up naturally. Today, we talked about using the N-word in the locker room. That word doesn't have the same sting that it had maybe years ago. So it's not that important to the Black community that much anymore because hip hop is very strong in our community. It's not the entire Black community, but it's very strong in our community. And unfortunately, hip hop really produces and uses that word. So it promotes that word naturally. So now the new generation has that word and they don't understand the meaning anymore because everybody's using it. So, but what does it really mean for the Black community? Should we use it in the locker room? That's for you to decide. I just brought up the conversation. I just brought it up so that to see how important is it to the Black community anymore. Some are educated, some are not. Some don't understand what the word is. Some don't think that it's a big deal. All right, they use it in the music, so who cares? Let Bucky do what he do. All right, I'm not putting all of the weight on Coach Prime. He's not our savior. But if he's not our savior, then why did you hold him as such high regard for HBCUs? If I bring up the N-word and the first thing you're saying is Coach Prime is not our savior, you're putting everything on Coach Prime, then don't be the same person that's saying that Coach Prime shouldn't have left the HBCUs. I'm just saying, it's something to think about. It's a Liberian perspective. Because this is TLP. And you know who I am. I'm Harry B. And that right there was the Liberian perspective. So think about it. It was just another perspective. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We'll talk more football because that's what we do here. Blah.